Imagine if I started out my videos like that.
100.
Welcome back to Rewild Homeschool, and today we are going to talk a little bit about fungus gnats. Fungus gnats. So this time of year, fungus gnats are pretty much inevitable, especially in DC because we live in a swamp. But there are a few ways to make sure that you are preventing them from taking root in your soil and then on your plant, and then keeping them at bay for the rest of the summer. So in our last video, we talked a little bit about all the different products that you can utilize for different houseplant pests, and then on what sliding scale of intensity you can utilize them based on the size of your infestation. So if you are just dealing with a few fungus gnats coming up out of the soil, or maybe even mosquitoes, it's really good to identify which is which. Obviously, we all are pretty familiar with what mosquitoes look like. Unfortunately, fungus gnats are going to be much tinier, especially when they have just hatched out of the soil. They're going to be very small, almost like a midge. And then as they actually continue to grow and mature, they'll get slightly bigger, but they're still going to be significantly smaller than a mosquito. So if you just have a few crawling around in the soil or flying around your plant maybe every time you walk by it, I would really just recommend utilizing those yellow sticky traps that you can get at hardware stores. Those are really going to be the most effective, and it's just good to keep in your plant to keep any other small little pest out if they're flying around. It's literally fungus gnats. The best way to prevent fungus gnats or mosquitoes or any other kind of little gnat or midge insect from getting into your houseplants and kind of taking hold is to really regulate the moisture of the soil. These insects really like anything that's going to stay consistently warm and moist, and they especially love decomposing matter. So this is why they're going to come in on our produce. They can just come in from the windows or your doors being open for too long, and then that environment in the soil, if it is too wet for too long, or if maybe you have a little bit of root rot, or there's a little bit of decaying leaves that are staying in there for too long, that's when they're going to really set up shop. And we're going to kill them. Old reliable. So let's say they're in there and they've set up shop, and now you really need to get rid of them. The best way to do that is to first let the soil dry out. That's going to just kind of stop the cycle altogether. Because if there are adults flying around the soil, that means that there's definitely eggs or larvae in the soil waiting to come out. So even if you are catching them in things like sticky traps, you really do need to add a preventative to your soil in order to kind of stop that life cycle from continuing. Best way to do that is with hydrogen peroxide. So I have already pre-mixed some hydrogen peroxide into water. Typically you want to dilute really anything that you're putting in your plants at least by 50% or at least by 75%. You can just use hydrogen peroxide from the pharmacy. Regular percentage is fine. And then you're just going to want to pour it into the soil, and also you can spray the leaves down. I'm going to just pour it in. And you should hear that little hydrogen peroxide pop. It's oxygenating the soil, and it's also going to kill anything that's in there, disinfect it. So if you've taken your preventative measures, you've let the plant dry out, you maybe have even used some hydrogen peroxide, and you're still dealing with this pest, that's when I would move up in your arsenal, maybe even using something like the insecticidal soap to really just kill them dead and stop that life cycle right in its tracks. Stop! Like other common houseplant pests, you definitely want to utilize that sliding scale treatment plan like we discussed in our beginning video. So if you have just a minor infestation, maybe start with the sticky traps, then move to a Castile soap or hydrogen peroxide solution that's diluted, then maybe a neem oil solution that's diluted, and then finally an insecticidal soap if it's really bad. Oof. So a really great preventative measure that we utilize in the store is mosquito bits. We just sprinkle these right onto the soil. They kill mosquito larvae. They deter the adult mosquitoes from re-entering the soil. And then when you water the plant, it's actually going to release that deeper into the soil. Just put some mosquito bits in there. Oh my God. And we also have mosquito dunks. This is actually a treatment for water. So a little bit of a preventative. We usually break these up into fourths, so you don't have to use a whole one, which makes them just last a little longer. I usually just put this directly in my watering can and let it sit in there. That's also going to stop the mosquitoes or the fungus gnats from hanging out near a stagnant water source. And then every time you water your plant, you're kind of doubling up on that. That's it. I know the fungus gnats can be super annoying this time of year. I personally have experienced far too many of them in my lifetime. It's annoying. But again, just keep in mind that it's something that's a little bit unavoidable, even if you're doing everything right. So just take those preventative measures to make sure it doesn't get out of control. And remember that winter is coming and they won't be around forever. See ya. See ya.